God, why is betrayal the only truth that sticks? Those words are from Arthur Miller's play After the Fall, which he wrote reflecting on his marriage to Marilyn Monroe after it ended in divorce. God, why is betrayal the only truth that sticks? Betrayal. That's where we begin our 3-hour journey to the cross. A journey that will end in death begins with what Malcolm X called the thing that is worse than death. You see, Malcolm said, I could conceive death, but I could not conceive betrayal. It is quite possible that this is the lowest point in the entire Passion narrative. Quite possible that as we journey to the torture and death of the cross, the story actually gets better, gets easier to bear than where we begin. Betrayal is the truth that sticks. Betrayal by one whom you trusted and loved, especially so. For Brutus, as you know, was Caesar's angel. Judge, O you gods, how dearly Caesar loved him. This was the most unkindest cut of all. God, why is betrayal the only truth that sticks? It isn't true, of course. There are many truths that stick, but it feels true because there is no pain like betrayal. Whether it is friend or lover, parent or child, spouse or partner, at some point in our lives, each and every one of us knows what it is to be betrayed. Whether it's on the playground or the battleground, the boardroom or the bedroom, in great ways or small, we know what it is to have one you loved, one you entrusted with your heart, your soul, your deepest feelings and intimate secrets, choose to betray that trust. Betray it in the arms of another. Betray it by releasing those intimacies to the world. Betray it just by standing aside and disappearing into the crowd when the bullying begins and the accusations fly. Betrayal may not be the only truth that sticks, but it is certainly a truth that sticks. Because when we are betrayed, the sounds, the images stay with us, whether they be things we actually witnessed or vivid imaginations of the moments, the touches, the words, the intimacies. They flash in front of us without warning, taunting us, jeering at us, intruding upon our brain. They are burned into our neural pathways because that is the way of trauma, and there is no trauma like betrayal, no trauma like having a foundational trust pulled out from under us, no trauma like having a love betrayed. When we are betrayed, the sounds, the images stay with us, and so does the Greek chorus of internal voices. How could I not have known? How could I have been so stupid? Because betrayal not only triggers anger, but shame. Betrayal reinforces our greatest fears of unlovability and unworthiness. Betrayal not only makes us feel alone, it tempts us to believe that we deserve it, that loneliness is our destiny, and the betrayer has only confirmed what deep down we always feared, that any love for us was too good to be true, that love may be for others, but not for me. We know what it is like to be betrayed. There is no pain like it. And yet there is another pain, a powerful pain, the pain of being the betrayer. On this day when we walk the steps of Jesus, let us pause a moment at the outset to see through those eyes, through Judas's eyes. Because if we are truthful, we know that pain as well. The pain of Judas sticks just as fast. In Dante's Inferno, the deepest place of torment was reserved for Judas, Brutus, and Cassius, with Judas being that soul up there which has the greatest pain. Though Dante's intent was to attribute divine punishment, I wonder if instead the truth is more consequence. For the pain of betraying love is deep, betraying perfect love all the more so. As deep as the pain of being betrayed, the pain of Judas is the pain of knowing you are causing that pain in one whom you love, in one who trusted you. It is the pain of knowing you have forsaken one whom you swore you would never leave. It is the shame of weakness and failure, of not being able to live up to the promise of love, no matter how unrealistic that promise might have been, no matter how understandable and human the frailty. It is the pain of the Lagrime di San Pietro, the pain of Peter, the agony of Peter seeing the face of Jesus after he had denied him 3 times. It is the pain of Judas. Simple stories have heroes of pure virtue and villains of pure vice. True stories are never simple, because each of us is more complex, more interesting, more glorious and tragic than that. Each of us is more human, full of wonder and frailty, capable of the most heroic acts and enduring struggles, and also of the betrayals that happen in a moment of passion, and the betrayals that happen little by little as tiny confidences are broken and intimacy is transferred. If there is a simple truth, it is that sometimes we love the wrong things. Sometimes we love the wrong people. Not that the love itself is wrong or even the people, but that our heart, our pain, sometimes our selfishness lead us to love things. We love people that turn us into betrayers of those whom we love the most, of those who need us the most. We rationalize step by step how it isn't betrayal until betrayal explodes in the face of the one whom we love and who trusts us, who had trusted us. Until that moment when we know those eyes will never gaze on us the same way again. It would be easy, if not accurate, just to paint Judas as consumed by greed, but Judas was human, and so he must have been much more complex than that. Betrayers, assassins, and Judas was certainly both, are rarely just mercenaries looking for their 30 pieces of silver. It's never that simple. Judas wasn't that simple, and neither are we. Why did Judas betray Jesus? Maybe it was because Jesus was an extremist. Jesus was dangerous. Judas heard the arguments. Jesus was going to incite the crowd. People were going to get hurt. Maybe Judas thought he was doing the right thing, the respectable thing. Maybe Judas was the first century version of the white moderate that Dr. King wrote about from that Birmingham cell, who is more devoted to order than to justice, who prefers a negative peace, which is the absence of tension, to a positive peace, which is the presence of justice. Maybe Judas thought he was doing the right thing, preserving order, and he would get paid. Maybe it was because Jesus wasn't extreme enough. Maybe Judas was a violent revolutionary who wanted Palm Sunday to be a military incursion. Maybe Judas felt he was the one who had been betrayed by a Jesus who said he was going to tear down the temple and then instead spoke of loving enemies and praying for those who persecute you. Maybe Judas was in deep, deep pain. Maybe Judas needed Jesus to love him in a way that Jesus couldn't, a way that was exclusive and possessive, a way that said, Judas, I love you not just as I love all these others, deep as that is, but I love you more than all these others. Maybe that's what the chief priests and the Romans offered, and so Judas couldn't resist doing what it took to find that affirmation and love in their eyes. Maybe Judas was like Fredo Corleone, and he felt he didn't get what he was owed. Maybe he felt he was being passed over and pushed aside, that he could do more than just carry the money around. Maybe he felt he wasn't getting the respect that he was due. Maybe Judas was just tired and wanted it to be over. The relationship wasn't what he thought it was going to be when they had met. There had been such promise, such excitement, such passion. But the excitement had long since gone, and now it was something different and not what he had wanted. He was different, and Jesus seemed different. It was so much harder than he thought, and he didn't see the point anymore, and at least this way he could get something out of it. Maybe Judas' betrayal was the culmination of a long, slow betrayal, of what Brené Brown calls the betrayal of disengagement, of not caring, of letting the connection go, of not being willing to devote time and effort to the relationship. When the people we love or with whom we have a deep connection stop caring, stop paying attention, stop investing and fighting for the relationship, trust begins to slip away and the hurt starts seeping in. Whatever it was, we know that it was certainly not simple. Whatever it was, we know that Jesus loved Judas, and at some point, Judas loved Jesus, and Judas betrayed that love. And so there is this moment where they are face to face. Jesus with his disciples, the ones Judas used to call his friends, and Judas with the soldiers, and their gaze meets. The unimaginable pain of that gaze as betrayer and betrayed meet in silence for a moment that stretches into eternity. The truth of the pain, the truth that will determine both of their futures, the betrayal that is the only truth that sticks. Oh, the pain of that moment where Judas and Jesus, betrayer and betrayed, stand together in that space between what might have been and now what irretrievably was. What passed between them in that moment? What agony did Jesus have in his eyes? And what torment was it for Judas to know that he had thrust that blade? What seemed like a lifetime together flashes before their eyes, before their paths diverge forever. And yet, this is not the end of the story. In Matthew's gospel, Jesus says to Judas, "Is this how you betray me, with a kiss?" And yet what we know about Jesus is he responds to the betrayal with a kiss. From the cross, Jesus will say to the soldiers, to the crowd, even to Judas, "God, forgive them, for they know not what they do." Judas and Jesus, betrayer and betrayed, may part in the garden that night, but their story will continue to be written together. Jesus is not the only one who dies on a tree this day. Judas goes from this place and hangs himself on a tree. Betrayer and betrayed meet the same fate, and love is their common salvation, for there will be Easter for them both. There will be love for them both. The tears of each will be wiped away in the heart of the great lover, the blessed divine. Each will be comforted. Each will be loved. Each will find their rest. For the truth is, we are all betrayers, and we have all been betrayed. We know the deep pain of each. We have been hurt, and we have hurt each other. We have disappointed, and we have been disappointed. We have loved so imperfectly, and we have lived so fearfully. We have felt what it is to have friends and lovers thrust the blade through our heart, and we know the pain of seeing the disappointment and betrayal in another's eyes. Audre Lorde writes, "Each time you love, love as deeply as if it were forever." On this day, when a love as deep as forever leads us to the cross, we come face to face with the risk of loving that deeply. It is the pain of Judas. It is the pain of Jesus. It is the pain of the only truth that sticks.